Jin is a character that excels at very strong poking, insane space control, very strong mix-up with his wave dash, very strong punishment, and very strong pressure, especially at the wall whilst in heat as well. Hey guys, GamerNemy here, and in this guide I'm gonna give you Jin's most important tools, how you want to use these tools, in what scenarios you want to use these tools, and overall tips and tricks such as flowcharts, frame traps, and setups revolving all of Jin's key moves. So without further ado, boot up your game, get comfortable, because as usual it's gonna be a long one. Let's jump right into it. Yosh! So first, let's start with Jin's classic 214, which is probably his most abused string. This string is so abused by Jin mains, it's just stupid, but it makes sense and I'll explain why. So 214 is completely safe at -9. It's a high mid string, so it's very difficult to deal with. Most strings that are high mid in this game are just like really toxic. So like I said, it's safe at -9, and it does have some pushback though, so you don't really stuck at like not pressing buttons after this, and I'll explain why later on. The last hit of the string does knock down on counter hit, giving you a follow-up, guaranteed down 2 or guaranteed forward neutral quarter circle forward 1 or his mid electric. The last hit can also be delayed, so 214, the last hit can be delayed, and this is what makes this string very difficult to deal with, or a very strong string from the Jin side of things. This string is all about conditioning, because you can just buffer 2-1, right? 2-1 is only -3. It's basically just a down forward 1. 2-1 is a down forward 1, so you can just move afterwards, study your opponent, do some crazy stuff. So I will talk about down forward 1 in the next section, and it will apply to 2-1 as well, so just keep that in mind. You can just throw out 2-1, right? 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1-4, boom. Your opponent gets countered, and this is why I say it's all about conditioning. It all revolves around the last hit of 214 because of that counter hit knockdown. Your opponent does not want to mash after 2-1. They are conditioned, the mental frames. They don't want to get hit by that move because it's so annoying. This trick is so annoying to deal with, and that's why I say it's Jin players' most beloved string, most spammable string, and that's why. It's just very strong. And what I love about this string as well is the fact that you can't really like sidestep launch this string. You have to commit sidewalk, right? You can't do like a sidestep dark or like a sidestep hop kick immediately. You have to commit to a sidewalk and then launch it, because the 2-1, rather the 1 of the 214 string, does have some pretty good tracking, and it does catch sidestep. It won't catch a sidewalk, but it will catch a sidestep. So the opponent has to commit to the sidestep, and that means you can just like throw out 4s now, right? Dash up 4, forward neutral quarter circle forward 3 for the tracking or the homing properties. So now when you condition your opponent to stop pressing buttons, this now gives you the freedom to like mess around with 2-1. You can go for like everything else, right? You can go like 2-1 low, 2-1 mid, for example, go like a 2-1 into a Hellsweep Mixup, 2-1 into forward 3, 2-1 into go low, 2-1 into down 2, 2-1 side step, 2-1 into dive kick, 2-1 into, you know, the other plus frame move from Zen. It's all because you have conditioned your opponent to not press buttons. What I'm trying to say is you can just get creative after 2-1 because your opponent is conditioned to not press buttons. If they start pressing buttons, you start throwing out the 2-1-4, because what do you have to lose? The whole string is still safe. It's still safe at -9. So just go 2-1-4 spam, 2-1 delayed, 2-1-4, right? 2-1, oh, you're not pressing buttons, boom, down back 4. Down back 4 again, go low, abuse them with the lows. So like honestly, this is probably in top 10 best moves in the game, or best strings in the game, because guys, it is so strong. Yeah, the conditioning on this move is just so strong. Like Jin mains, y'all are eating well with this move. And like I said, most Jin mains abuse this string, and so should you. So that's what makes 2-1 a very strong string for Jin. Alright, so just to give you guys some scenarios, we have Book here playing Jin. So Book here does 2-1 into up forward 2. Of course, up forward 2 is an evasive mid, kind of like Feng up forward 2. Then does just 2-1-4, just basically throws it out. And then the third time he does 2-1 into 2-1 again, then does like a dash jab. So he was basically checking the opponent after doing 2-1. In a different set and scenario here, you can see him throw out 2-1-4 again, but this time he lands the 4 on counter hit and gets a guaranteed forward, neutral quarter circle forward 1. So yeah, these are just some examples from a high level Jin player, and like I said, it's just about conditioning your opponent to not press buttons after 2-1 because of the fear of that counter hit. So that brings us to Jin's down forward 1, and I won't spend a lot of time on this one because you're basically going to be using it just the same as 2-1-4. I did say the second part of his 2-1-4, or the 1 part of the string, has the same properties as Jin's down forward 1. So Jin's down forward 1 is also used for conditioning. It's a check as well, like basically every down forward 1 in the game, or at least most of them. So the only difference is whilst you're checking your opponent with 2-1-4 for that counter hit string and forcing them not to press buttons because of that counter hit string, down forward 1 has an extension. The extension is a high down forward 1-4. So it's safe on block, but it's a high, so it can be ducked. So instead, you're conditioning your opponent to duck after down forward 1, right? So like throw out a down forward 1 and they think you're going to throw out a down forward 1-4, so they start ducking. So you have these mental frame mix-ups. So when you start twitch ducking, you basically steal your turn back. So you can do like down forward 1, then go down forward 1 and follow up after that. So down forward 1, go low. So basically everything I said about 2-1-4 guys applies to down forward 1. I'll just repeat myself again, and I don't want this guy to be very long. I don't want to be too redundant. So if you've skipped to this section using timestamps, please check out the 2-1-4 section. Everything about 2-1-4 applies to down forward 1-4 as well in terms of conditioning and how you want to use this. Now there is an extension that it has down forward 1-4-4, so you cancel the high into a mid. Now this string is unsafe at -12 and you won't really be using it that much at mid screen. However, it does have some utility at the war because it does war splat, so you can mix that up at the war once in a while, throw out a down forward 1-4-4, but be mindful, like I said, it is punishable. Down forward 1 and 2-1 pressure are best friends. Like Jin players should always use these in tandem with each other. Once in a while throw out a 2-1, once in a while throw out a down forward 1. This is like your B and B when it comes to poking with Jin, and like I say, they work in a very similar sense. Nothing too complicated about these strings. Down forward 1-4 is also +10 on hit, so you can do a lot off of this string. So just in case you land this string on hit and you do want some follow-ups, you can do a lot despite having the pushback. So you can do like down forward 1-4 into forward 4, which is a frame trap, down forward 1-4 into forward 2. Basically they press buttons, they get hit, down forward 1-4 dash up electric, and if they start respecting these plus frames, that gives you the freedom to now introduce some mix-ups, right? So down forward 1-4 into dash up down back 4, down forward 1-4 dash up forward 3, dash up Hellsweep, you know, dash up cancels and stuff like that. So just some pretty good setups and quick tips of down forward 1-4 on hit. Now let's talk about the infamous Jin forward 4, Fina forward 4, the glue that holds this character together. This move is downright amazing. So earlier in the video or during the intro, I did say Jin is very strong when it comes to space control, and that's mostly because of this move and other moves we'll talk about later in the video. But forward 4 is like the queen essential of space control. So it's a counter hit launcher that's safe on block and has amazing range and like really good pushback as well. So despite being -8 on block, it does have some pushback, so you can still move afterwards. This move is very strong, top 10 move in the game for sure, maybe even top 5. Like, it's so difficult to deal with. Jin commands this space very well. Like the range 1.5, range 2, Jin controls the space. Very few characters can contest at this range, and mostly it's because of forward 4. It is just pretty strong. Now the only downside to this move is the fact that it's a bit linear. You can very easily sidestep it, but there are ways around this. Firstly, Jin has a wave dash, and as you know, with most characters that have wave dash, you can easily realign yourself with your opponent depending on how deep you wave dash. So you can do like a dash up, then do a wave dash into forward 4. And depending on the timing and the point at which the opponent tries to sidestep, sometimes you can realign yourself with the opponent. It won't work all the time, but it's just something that you can do if you really want to use forward 4 at range. And the fact that it's a forward input, that means you can buffer it from like so far. You can like do run up forward, like instant. Think of Dragunov's instant while running 2, but instead of doing running 2, do a forward 4. So due to that, you can like buffer it from like really far, like range 3, range 4, right? So it is very difficult to deal with this move. And not just that, Jin actually also has some pretty good homing moves, right? He has forward neutral quarter circle forward 3, which is very strong mid tracking move. He has dash up 4 as well, pretty strong homing move. So despite the linearity, you have some ways around it. Remember, he also has Annoy moves such as forward 2, which have a different sidestep timing. So yeah, good luck perfectly sidestepping this move. You mainly use this move as a counter hit fisher. That's basically why you want to throw it out, other than space control. So now, why is it good for space control? Like I said earlier, so it's mainly because of the pushback. Despite being -8, it has so much pushback that the opponent really can't contest that much unless they have like long range hitting moves. You can do some pretty good stuff after this, like think of forward 4 then backdash, right? You've created that space where if they mash buttons, they're at risk of getting punished. So like a forward 4 backdash into electric with punish, you can do like a forward 4 and throw out some jabs to predict them running into you. Forward 4, throw out a down forward 1, right? You can do like a forward 4, throw out a 4. So you can predict whether they're going to come running at you because of the pushback that it has, or you can predict if they're going to stay back, right? So if they stay back, you basically steal your turn again. So like a forward 4 and they're like, okay, push back and he's still safe, or just back away. So you run up and forward 4 again, right? Forward 4, forward 2. Forward 4, dash up, down, back 4, dash up low, dash up electric, dash up Hellsweep. It's all about reads. I stress this in all of my guides. Despite the tips I've been giving you guys, it's all about reads. What are they doing after forward 4? Are they respecting it? Are they running into it? Are they throwing buttons afterwards? Work off of that. That's a basic way of how you want to use forward 4 as space control. And being a counter hit fisher, of course, we do need some pretty good frame traps, and Jin actually has some decent frame traps off of this. Okay, let's start on block first. So on block, you do have basic stuff like running 3 into forward 4. That's a frame trap. They press buttons, they get hit. You have dive kick at max range. Dive kick at max range becomes like +7, +8. So pretty good frame trap for forward 4. So dive kick into forward 4. Then 3 + 4 as well into forward 4. Depending on how close you are, it can whiff at times. So be very careful. You have to make sure you are close with your opponent so you can throw out the forward 4 afterwards at the frame trap. If they get hit, they get countered. It's just some basic frame traps off of blast frames on block, but most of his good stuff come out on hit, like down forward 1-4. We spoke about down forward 1-4 earlier. Into forward 4 is a pretty good frame trap. Or standing 4 into forward 4, pretty good frame trap. You have Zen 3 into forward 4 is a frame trap as well. They get hit. They press buttons, they get hit. You have CD3 or forward neutral quarter circle forward 3 on hit into forward 4 is a frame trap. He has a lot. This is just some ideas or giving you guys on what to work with in terms of frame traps. And lastly, forward 4 can go into Zen. So forward 4 and you keep holding forward takes you into Zen. And you won't really use this that much because a down forward 1 from the opponent will beat out all the options. If you throw out a power crash, which is a high, the opponent can like check you with jabs or like a down forward 1 and then duck afterwards and launch you, so it's risky. Then everything else can be countered by a down forward 1. So you want to go into Zen stance after forward 4 only on hit, when forward 4 lands on hit. So in that sense, forward 4 can also be used as a punisher and a whiff punisher as well. So think of like Death Fist, right? Post Death Fist can be punished with forward 4. So you hit forward 4 on hit, then go into Zen, then get that Zen mix up. You have like Zen 3, which is a frame trap. So if you go forward 4 on hit into Zen 3, they get counter hit, you get a guaranteed down 4 afterwards. If they know this, they will stop pressing buttons afterwards. That makes you go in with other stuff like Zen dive kick, you know, Zen Hellsweep cancels and stuff like that. So forward 4 is very, very strong. Space control, counter hit fisher, and a punisher as well. This move can do everything. It can do everything. It's mad. I wish my main had a move like this, guys. Like forward 4 is amazing, very infamous back in Tekken 7. It has been nerfed a bit, but still does the job pretty well. Very, very strong move. Spam this as much as possible, but in a smart way, of course. So some more examples. We have Book here with a round start forward 4. So like I said, just do it. And in this scenario, he uses dash up forward 4, and the opponent, knowing that it's -8, has a long range move which is down back 2, immediately challenges. So the opponent knows about this and has some good range 2s to challenge. Just throw it out, then block afterwards. And lastly, he uses the frame trap on block here. So running 3, like we talked about earlier, into forward 4 is a frame trap. However, the opponent didn't press buttons, but they did get hit. I'm guessing they ducked. So yeah, just a few scenarios on how you really want to implement that forward 4. Now let's talk about Jin's electric wind hook fist, which I think we are all familiar with. We all know how strong the electric is on Mishimas. Jin being that archetype that controls space a lot, this is just a bonus to his toolkit. So it's a safe high plus move that comes out at 14 frames if done perfectly. Move that launches on normal hit, by the way, just being a high. And it has the same range as a forward 4, right? So you basically just interchange the way you use them. You use an electric the same way you use forward 4 in terms of space control and pressure. The only difference is this is actually a launcher and it's plus on block. Everything I said about forward 4 honestly applies to the electric, with the difference of being a launcher and being plus. It's very strong for space control, it's a very strong punisher, it's a very strong with punishment as well. And being a Mishima player, you have to have those with punishers, electric with punishment. I don't mean punishing with back to 1, punishing with back forward 4, punishing with forward 2. I mean punishing with an electric. If you play Jin, guys, if you play Mishimas, you play Kazuya, Reina, Jin, you must have those punishers on point, and I mean his electrics. So it's also a bit linear, just like forward 4, but again, Jin has a wave dash, so you can easily realign yourself with your opponent. You can delay it, you can like dash so many times, and it's just difficult to sidestep. You have to look out for forward 4, you have to look out for forward 2, you also have to look out for Jin's electric. It's so difficult, it's just so difficult. In this range, bro, like Jin, man, this space that he controls, it's so difficult to contest. You duck, he has forward 2. You try to sidestep, he has forward neutral, quarter circle, forward 3. He can realign himself again. So I won't really spend much time on the electric. Like I said, it's basically just use the same as forward 4 to control that space. You put in pressure, but being plus, of course, you have some pretty good frame traps. You can do like electric on block into 4. This is a very strong frame trap as well. They press buttons, they get countered. You can do electric into back forward 2 3. Back forward 2 3 is a safe mid string, which I'll talk about later. Even on block, you can do like dive kick into electric. You can do electric into back 2 1 is another good one. You can do electric into down forward 1, and sometimes, just like forward 4, people tend to like dash towards you after an electric sometimes. So you can always like jab check, right? Electric into jab. If they run into you, they get like interrupted by the jab and stuff like that. So even setups basically just like forward 4 on block, right? So stuff like dive kick. Dive kick is another good setup for an electric at tip range. Of course, it's like +7, +8, like I mentioned earlier. So dive kick into EWHF. You have Zen 3+4 into electric, running 3 into electric. All the setups that worked with forward 4 also work with electric as well. A counter it down back 4 into electric. Electric into electric as well works as a frame trap. So it's just forward 4, except it's plus on block, meaning you have some better setups, better frame traps, and it's a natural launcher on hit. So most of the tips I gave about forward 4 will also apply to Jin's electric. Space control with punishment, natural launcher on normal hit, very, very strong too. You must learn how to EWGF if you're thinking of picking up Jin or just improving your Jin overall. Okay, so here we have Cherryberry Mango, who is another high level Jin player from Korea, and as you can see, he does down 4 into side step electric. Now the opponent didn't really press buttons, but you hesitate even just a bit, you're still getting hit by this move. And why not? And it's safe, so just throw it out. Then later he does dash up electric into back forward to 1. Remember, I did say electric into back forward 2 is a frame trap. I will talk about back forward 2 mix-ups later in the video, but you should always remember that electric is plus on block, so it's still your turn. Take advantage of some setups such as this one. Then we have another setup for an electric here. So he does hit dash into electric. So every hit dash is +5, and an electric comes out at 14 frames if done perfectly. So hit dash into electric is a frame trap. The opponent here pressed the buttons, they got hit, and that was GG. Jin's Demon Paw, or his forward 2, is another of his most infamous moves and one of the best mid checks in the game. This move is amazing. It's a safe mid hit engager that takes you into hit and is -9 on block. Honestly, this move is self-explanatory, like just throw it out. Just do it. The only problem I have with these moves is Jin players love to spam it a lot, and that's why I want to talk about it in this section. Now, firstly, it's a good mix-up to his electric, right? Electric is a high after all, so it's good to interchange it with forward 4 and forward 2 as well. It's a forward input, meaning you can buffer it from very far, just like forward 4, but it's a forward. In fact, you can buffer it from very far. It's still linear as well, but like I've been saying throughout the video, Jin has a wave dash, so you can easily realign yourself with the opponent using this move. The only problem I have with this move, like I said, is Jin players love to abuse it so much. At the end of the day, it is strong, but it's -9 on block, meaning you lose your turn and you leave yourself point blank range in your opponent's face. So think about it for a second, right? You have forward 4, which has immense pushback, is -8 on block and is a counter hit launcher, and you have forward 2, which is -9. You can't move afterwards and it leaves you right in your opponent's face. So which one are you gonna use mostly? You are obviously going to use forward 4 because it has more mileage. A counter hit launcher or a hit engager. Pushback on block, you can move afterwards because of the pushback on block with forward 4, but you can't do the same with forward 2. So don't over rely too much on forward 2. You have other strong tools such as forward 4. So what you want to do with forward 2 most of the time is use it in some instances where it's guaranteed to hit on block, right? Because like I said, it's linear and people expect forward 2 a lot. Forward 2 and forward 4 are the most expected moves from Jin, with electric as well, so people usually look for forward 2 a lot. So for example, speaking about down forward 1-4, you can do forward 4 afterwards, right? It's guaranteed, rather it's a frame trap, they press buttons, they get hit, stuff like Zen 3 and etc. But overall, self-explanatory, just throw it out, just do it, just don't do it too much. Jin's 4 is a 13 frame high that is homing, is safe on block at -9, is hella advantageous on hit at +10, and on counter it gives you guaranteed down forward 1-4 for max damage, or a 1+2 which takes you into hit as well. So throughout the video, I've spoken about how Jin is very strong with space control, with moves such as electric, forward 2 and forward 4. However, they are linear, they are side steppable, and this is where 4 comes into play. So this is 13 frames fast. Just to put things into perspective, a down forward 1 is 13 frames fast, so it's as fast as a down forward 1. So with that said, it has some pretty good setups which we'll get into afterwards, but first let's talk about why this is strong to use as a homing move to cover up moves such as forward 2, electric and forward 4. So dash up 4 is what you're going to do to mix this up with forward 2, for example, because like I said, everyone is looking for forward 2 against Jin. Very linear, but they have to look for these moves, and this is where 4 comes into play. So because this move comes out at 13 frames, which is really fast, you can afford to dash up and throw out a 4, and honestly it's good because you get a lot of mileage after this due to the fact that you do get some guaranteed stuff on counter hit. The fact that it does something on counter hit means it's worth throwing it out as well. You can also mix this up with his 4 neutral quarter circle forward 3 just to stop them from ducking, but however that's a slower homing move. So like I said, it's 13 frames fast, so it's very strong even at close range. So think of it this way, in a situation where you'd throw out a down forward 1, you'd also throw out just a 4, because they are coming out at the same speed, so it's worth using that as well. So you do have some pretty good frame traps as usual. Being a counter hit 2, you want to have some setups and frame traps for this move. So speaking about the generic frame traps like running 3 into 4, dive kick as well, Zen 3+4, all these work for 4 as well. But like usual, most of the setups shine on hit as well, and due to the fact that this string is very fast, or this move is very fast, it does have hella setups or hella frame traps on hit. The most common setup for 4 is down back 4 into 4. This setup is strong because you will trade with a jab after down back 4, however, it will trade in your favor because you can still get a follow-up after this. The best part about this is you can get a guaranteed can of down back 4 into 4 on counter hit if you trade with what they'll throw out afterwards. Like you trade with a jab, you get a can guaranteed. So you see why this setup is very strong and mostly spammed by Jin players, right? But be very careful because it is a high, so if you get predictable, they will start ducking. So down back 4 into 4 is a very strong frame trap. You have basic stuff like down forward 1, of course, into 4 being +4 on block, jabs on hit into 4, 2-1 on hit into 4. I've spoken about electric on block into 4, pretty strong as well. Most of Jin's frame traps for his moves or his counter hit moves involve the same moves or similar moves as well. So you see why 4 is a very strong move, right? What really sets it apart from the rest is the speed. Very fast counter hit move that's safe, right? And on block at -9, as usual, you just want to block afterwards. You are at risk of getting counter hit, getting hit as well, so be very careful. And some good follow-ups as well, being +10 on hit, right? You've spoken about this move, I've mentioned it throughout the video. You have some pretty good setups such as forward 2, you have electric setups, you have forward 4 as well. +10 on hit is very strong, and once I start respecting these frame traps, that means you can now start getting in for free. So you do like a 4, right, on hit, they'll expect a forward 4 as a frame trap, so instead you go for like a dash up Hellsweep or like a forward 3 mix-up instead. Very versatile move, and you have to implement this in your game plan as well. Okay, so back to Book's Jin here. So he does a down back 4, then does a small side step into the 4. So like I said, down back 4 into 4 is a very common frame trap. People tend to duck a lot after down back 4. So Book here does a small side step just to throw off the timing of the opponent, then throws out the 4. So that's something to think about as well. Make those reads. Then here we have one of the frame traps on block that I spoke about earlier, so running 3 into 4. Lastly here, Book presses buttons after 4 on block, and I did say 4 on block being -9, you don't really have to press buttons afterwards because it's risky, but that depends on the reads you have on the opponent. So Book here does 2-4 afterwards because he realized that the opponent came running in after 4. So it depends on the reads, but ideally you do want to block after 4 because it's -9 on block. Okay, so next let's talk about Jin's back to 1, which is another really good tool for just checking your opponent. It's very strong for Okizeme. It's a very decent punish as well, and just overall a good 2-hit mid string. It's +2 on hit, so decent but not that great, and -9 on block. So on block you won't really have to do much, just block afterwards. Again, we go back to the issue of Jin and being a god at space control, and back to 1 really is another tool that can just bully the opponent at this particular range. You can also slow down the second hit or delay the second hit rather. So you can do some quirky stuff off of this, but not really like stuff that will work out all the time, but you can mess around with this a bit. Stuff like back 2, then they throw in a sneaky low, right? Back 2, throw out a down 4, just sneak. But overall, you won't really use it in that sense. Where back 2 1 shines is just as a poke, a check, and most importantly, an Okizeme 2. So basically, you get a knockdown, then just dash up towards the opponent and throw out a back to 1. This will cover like almost all the ground options, right? Take right, take left. If they do a get up kick, if they do like a spring kick as well, this beats all the options. So like get a knockdown, then just dash up back to 1. That's the main use of back to 1. You have better tools to be using for poking and checking, like forward 2. Speaking about forward 4, electric forward 4, you have moves that cover that. So you don't really need back to 1 as well. At the end of the day, you don't get that much mileage off of this string. And that's something a lot of Jin players fail to understand. Jin has a lot of mids, a lot of moves that do the same thing or might seem like they do the same thing, but actually have different purposes. So back to 1, I highly suggest you use this one mostly for Okizeme. Back forward 2-3 is a natural 2-hit string that's safe at -9 on block and +6 on hit. Now the reason why you want to use this move is because the second hit is a counter hit launcher. That's right, back forward 2-3 is a safe mid with the second hit being a counter hit launcher. That is really strong, and the best part about it is the fact that you can actually delay the second hit. You can delay the 3, right? It's a very strong string, and I think it's a little bit underrated in Tekken 8, not used as much as I think you should use this move. and it just gets better, right? So Jin has a laser scraper, he has back 2-1-2, which is a mid-high mid string. So the whole string is safe. The second hit can be ducked back to 1. But the problem is Jin has back to 3, which is mid-mid. So now the opponent is stuck between guessing if Jin is going to do back to 3 or actually ducking the back to 1. And like, why would they want to duck? Because back to 3 is still safe. So even if they don't duck, you still stay safe at -9, right? So this is what makes this string very, very strong. But like I said, you mostly want to use this for the counter hit property. Back to 1-2 is very strong for like stealing your turn and pressure at the wall. So it's good to mix it up sometimes, but you know, once in a while. You can just do back forward 2 on its own, right? Back forward 2, they don't do anything. Back forward 2 again. Back forward 2, delayed 3. They press buttons, boom, counter hit. Oh, you're not ducking? Back forward 2-1. Oh, you're expecting the third string of the back forward 2-1 string. Back forward 2-1, go low. Back forward 2-1, grab. They start trying to interrupt you, finish the whole string. Back forward 2-1-2. So it's mind games on mind games on mind games with this string. It's just too good, very, very strong. Being +6 on hit, meaning it's a very good setup for like frame traps and stuff. We're talking about so many frame traps with Jin, and like I said, everything is just the same in terms of frame traps. So let's say you get back forward 2-3 on hit, right? You can follow up with an electric as a frame trap. They press buttons, they get hit. You can follow up with forward 4. You can follow up with 4, down back 4. You know, like you can do so much. Back to 1, down forward 1, right? So just go crazy. It's very strong, especially just using back forward 2 on its own, because you can just continue your pressure because of the mental frames that are there, right? The follow-ups lead to so many mix-ups. Mental frames, back forward 2, electric. Back forward 2, go low. Back forward 2, grab. Back forward 2, they start pressing buttons, finish the whole string. Back forward 2-3, boom, counter hit. Right, they're not ducking or they're not pressing buttons anymore. Back forward 2-1 pressure, etc. Like, it's strong, it's a very strong string, and I can't stress enough. Throw out your back forward 2-3, guys. Okay, so let's look back at CBM's Jin again. So he does 2-1 into back forward 2-3. Now something I forgot to mention is you can actually go into Zen off of back forward 2-3. You hold forward, you go into Zen. So now your opponent has to worry about Zen mix-ups as well. So if they don't really press buttons a lot after you do back forward to 1, that gives you like freedom to explore the Zen options. Even on hit, you can go into Zen and use that for like Zen frame traps and mix ups, like Zen 1+2 to go low, or like Zen 3 for like frame traps. So yeah, so here he first does 2-1 into a single back forward 2, then does back forward 2-3 the second time. So he's looking for that counter hit. He's looking to see if Ni is pressing buttons after back forward 2. So remember what I said, guys, it's a fishing tool as well for the second hit, but also still a mix-up string as well. So please implement your back forward 2-3 pressure. So throughout this video, I've spoken mostly about how Jin is strong at space control. However, he does have a mix-up. Being a Mishima, of course, he does have a Hellsweep, which also gives him a mid version of the mix-up. So he has forward 3, which is a safe mid launcher. It's only -4 on block, so you can actually still move afterwards, right? That is very, very strong. The only downside is this mid is slow. It's hella slow, comes out at 23 to 25 frames because of the forward input. And because of the forward input, you can actually do it from pretty far, buffer it from very far, like forward 2 for example, and forward 4. So this move is something you won't just throw out like a forward 2 or a forward 4. You have to condition your opponent not to move and force them into a mix-up between the forward 3 and the Hellsweep. That's the whole point of the forward 3. You only want to use this move because of Jin's Hellsweep. People duck a lot against Jin because of this freaking Hellsweep. So we've spoken about tools that condition your opponent not to move. We've spoken about 2-1. We've spoken about down forward 1. Also spoke about back forward 2. So you use these tools to condition your opponent not to move, and when they stop moving, that gives you the freedom to now go for the 50-50 mix-ups between the mid and the low. It's not like a very strong mix-up because Jin isn't really that archetype, right? He would be busted if he had like hella mix-ups between lows and mids, but this is like one solid mix-up you can also use in your arsenal. You don't have to, but it's strong, right? Just remind that you also have the option to mix them up between the low and the mid. So condition your opponent not to move. You can also put them in plus frames, then go for a 50-50 mix-up between the Hellsweep and the mid. Dive kick, Zen 3+4, running 3, all these things we've talked about, down back 4 is like super plus, so you can mix it up with forward forward 3. Instead of going for a frame trap down back 4 into 4, just mix it up with a forward forward 3 instead. So down back 4, then go for a hell sweep. Let them know that you have the option to mix them up in that sense as well. Electric, go for a forward forward 3, right? Just stuff like that. The most important part is conditioning your opponent. The more your opponent stops pressing buttons against you, the more likely they are susceptible to eating this 50-50 mix-up. Now the best thing about forward forward 3 is the fact that it actually has a follow-up. So you can do forward forward 3 into his jab string. So Jin has jab strings such as 1 to 4, which is high high high. He has 1 to 3, which is a high high mid, and 1 to up forward 1. So you can actually do all these strings off of forward forward 3. So like forward forward 3 into 1 to 4. Forward forward 3 into 1 2 3. And what makes it so strong is the fact that forward forward 3 1 is actually +1 on block, and if you land this on hit, it will still launch the opponent for a full combo. This is hella busted because it's a safe launcher which you can make plus, right? You can steal your turn. On top of all this, your opponent now has to worry about a high follow-up after forward forward 3. So this opens up hella mind games. So the forward forward 3 on its own is technically plus because now they're mental frames as well. The opponent is expecting a high now, so like you can do so much with this. A very strong tool. So if you want to go more into the mix-up route with Jin, then forward forward 3 is an option for you. Used to mix up mostly with the hell sweep. Condition your opponent not to move around and press buttons against you, which makes them more susceptible to eating these mix-ups. Throughout this video, I've talked a lot about Jin's Zen 3+4, his jet kick and his dive kick as well, but just how exactly do you use these tools and how do you implement them? So first, let's talk about Jin's dive kick. Now Jin's dive kick is so good. What it has going for it is the range and the plus frames. However, the tracking is not that great, so be very careful. There are some specific ways in which you want to use this move. Now this move, it can be super plus or barely plus depending on how close you are to the opponent. The further you are, the more plus it is. So at close range it's only like +2, but max range can go as high as +7, right? So with that said, there are some setups you can use to get the maximum plus frames from this move. So stuff like a combo into knockdown, then a quick setup into the dive kick to get the max plus frames from this. It also hits grounded opponents, so it's very good to use as an Oki Zeme option after you knock down the opponent. So with that said, just like forward forward 3, you must condition your opponent not to move when you want to use the dive kick. Don't just do it like raw, right? It can easily be stepped, you can be jabbed out of it, so you want to condition your opponent not to move. The same tools we talked about earlier, 2-1, down forward 1, back forward 2. Condition your opponent not to move, then throw out a dive kick, and now they have to hold these plus frames. But where the dive kick shines mostly is in hit. This move does massive amounts of chip damage. This is like the chip damage this thing has is just stupid, and chip damage in Tekken 8 is very strong because you can think of chip damage as lows, right? Lows that you can recover from in terms of health. It does have chip damage normally, but the chip damage is enhanced when in hit. So in hit is when you want to really let the dive kicks loose at the wall. Like Jin is a menace at the wall with this goddamn move, man. The freaking dive kick, man. Jeez. Yeah, it's a problem. So throw out the dive kicks mostly in hit. And remember, it's all about conditioning. There's not much around the dive kick, but mostly it's just a plus frame move and used mostly for chip damage. So very strong at the wall, guys, but be very careful. Like I said, it is linear, it's not perfect. And then we have the jet kick, Zen 3+4. Now you want to use this together with the dive kick because it actually makes a very good mix-up. So just like the dive kick, it has pretty good range. The only difference is this one is a high, so the opponent can duck if anticipated, and that's why it's good to use the dive kick as the mix-up for this. So the bonus for the jet kick or Zen 3+4 is the fact you can actually go into Jin's wave dash by holding down forward, so you can continue your pressure with an electric, which makes it very strong. And just like a dive kick, it does massive amounts of chip damage in hit. So you use this in a similar sense as a dive kick, condition your opponent, put them in plus frames, and just take away that chip damage, that gray health. It's very strong at the corner as well. Like the corner for this thing is mad. The corner pressure, like Jin at the wall is just insanely strong, dude. Like the pressure this man can dish out is ridiculous. It's so difficult to just contest him and press buttons randomly because again, your back is against the wall. Any slight mistake is a wall splat. So use the jet kick in a similar sense as you would use the dive kick. So back to Cherry Berry Mango's Jin. So here we have a flow chart where he does electric into manual, jet kick into electric again. So notice the chip damage, and this is in heat. Notice that chip damage. So if Knee's back was against the wall and Cherry Berry Mango kept on spamming this, he could have lost like half his health due to chip damage. So very strong in heat. Okay, so now let's get into some of Jin's low, starting with his down 4. So this is a quick low check. It only does 11 damage, is only -1 on hit and -12 on block. So this won't be like a huge low that you'll be going for with Jin. It's just meant to annoy your opponent and study your opponent as well. So kind of think of it like a low version of down forward 1. What you do after down 4 depends on the read that you make against your opponent. So for example, down 4 goes under highs, it has high crushing properties, and it leaves space between you and your opponent, so you can do some really good mind games after this. So let's say you do down 4 and your opponent knows that okay, it's -1, so technically I can jab afterwards. If he tries to jab, he'll lose. So what you can do is down 4 then down 4 again, right? You beat their jabs by going under them. If they realize this, they'll start throwing out down forward ones to check you. So instead, do down 4 then jabs, right? So down 4 into 2, 1 pressure. So those are the kind of mind games that go on with down 4. And I did mention the space it leaves between you and your opponent. So this can be a good way to like bait your opponent with like quick setups. Let's say like a down 4 into a backdash electric, right? They throw stuff out, boom, punish them with an electric. So stuff like that. Down 4 sides the punish. It all depends on the reads that you make. Just meant to annoy your opponent and check them. At the end of the day, it's only down 4 and only does 11 damage. You have bigger lows that do way more damage, as we'll talk about later. So again, it's all about reads. There's not one specific way you want to use down 4 in terms of like setups or like frame traps and stuff. Just do it anyhow, right? Dash up down 4, condition your opponent into down 4. Alright, spoke about 2-1, spoken about down forward 1, back forward 2 into down 4, blast frames into down 4. Just freestyle with it. But what matters mostly is what you do afterwards. Don't just throw out a down 4 without an actual goal, right? What are you doing afterwards? And it should depend on the reads that you make against your opponent. On to down back 4, and this is where things start getting interesting. So down back 4 is a standing low that does 18 damage, so pretty chunky. You want damage, down back 4 is that low for you. It's +3 on hit and -13 on block, which is fair. So the problem with down back 4 is the fact that it's a standing low and it will be interrupted by jabs. It's very susceptible to jabs, right? Since it has no crushing properties. So you won't just run up and do down back 4 every single time. You have to use this low in a very smart way. Firstly, we've spoken about conditioning again. Like throughout the video, it's all about conditioning, because that's how Jin works. That's how Jin must be used. So you want to use down back 4 in situations where you condition your opponent not to press buttons, because Tekken 8 is a mash heavy game, guys, right? So just dashing up down back 4 won't work all the time. You have to condition your opponent not to move afterwards or not to mash buttons, then throw out the down back 4. And other situations as well is when you're heavily plus, right? So let's say you do like a 4 on hit or a Zen 3 or forward neutral quarter circle forward 3, down forward 1 4, or all these moves on hit are heavily plus. So you can do like that into a follow-up of down back 4. Sorry for my dog again, it's going off as usual. It's always when I'm recording, my guy, this goddamn dog, man. So yeah, anyway, those are the cases in which you want to throw out down back 4 conditioning and when you're heavily plus. Now you can dash up into down back 4 as well, but it mostly depends on the reads, right? When you're absolutely sure that the opponent is not going to mash buttons when you're dashing up into down back 4, because it's heavily susceptible to jabs like I mentioned earlier. So characters against Steve, for example, Hwarang or Asuka, characters with down forward 2s especially, you can just run up and down back 2, right? They have that threat of a down forward 2 of mashing jabs as well. So use it in a very smart sense. And down back 4 as well on its own is a conditioning too. It's +3 on hit, so you can do a lot of stuff after this. So for example, down back 4 into 4 I spoke about this earlier. It's a classic Jin setup. They mash buttons, they get counter hit, and if it trades with a jab, actually, you can get a guaranteed can. And this is why I said this is a very common setup with Jin, or a very common frame trap with Jin. People will always be looking for the 4 after down back 4. This is why I say it's also a conditioning tool on its own. So you can actually mix it up like down back 4 into forward 3, right? Down back 4 into hell sweep, down back 4 into dive kick, down back 4 into jet kick, because they are afraid of pressing buttons, or sometimes they even start ducking. So it's a conditioning tool on its own and a very strong load due to the frames that it has. Like down back 4 is amazing, but it's not a load that you can easily spam. You have to use it in a smart way. And then we have down 2, which is the complete opposite of down back 4. Like this move is downright busted. It's like a combination of down 4 and down back 4, but on steroids. So I say it's like down 4 because it goes under highs. I say it's like down back 4 because it's +4, right? And it's leaves you in crouching state, and the best part is it launches on counter hit. It's a counter hit launcher that's only -14 on block. -14. So if your character like Raven can launch it, but -14 for what this thing does, oh my days, I'll take this low every single day. Down 2 is very strong, and honestly, there is no like specific strat on how you want to use this move. Like just do it, bro. Like just dash up down 2 straight up. This move is so good. It's so freaking strong. The only biggest tip I have for down 2 is don't over rely too much on it. This is something people expect as well. Like down 2, dude, people are afraid of this move, right? So don't over rely too much on down 2. Mix up the timings with down back 4 and down 4 as well. Just throw out some other lows, but remind them once in a while that you do still have this busted ass low. But what makes it strong is the frame data and crushing properties, as well as the counter hit launcher. But the frame data being +4 and leaving you in crouch is ridiculously strong. Down 2 into outstanding 4, classic frame trap. Down 2 into outstanding 1-2 as well, which can even take you into Zen, but it's only +2 when you go into Zen, so not that strong of a follow-up. And it also leaves the opponent in crouch, right? So they can't really challenge that much after this, so it's also a good conditioning option. So like down 2, then because they're afraid of your follow-ups, mix it up with like a hell sweep, dash up forward 3, no dive kick cancel, or that jazz. A very strong low, guys. Like just do it. The only other thing you should look out for is character matchups. Characters that are 14 frame launchers like Raven or even Kazuya, 13 frame in fact. So that's the only thing you should look out for. But overall, like just freaking do it, man. Go crazy. Lastly, on his lows, we have his hell sweep, and I won't spend that much time on the hell sweep because you mostly use it like down back 4. And I did talk about forward 3 as well. You use hell sweep as a mix up to forward 3, the mid safe launcher. So this is like the risky low that knocks down on hit, does 31 damage, but is launch punishable on block. So this is like Jin's risky move. If you have to like risk it with Jin, then the hell sweep is that move for you. But it's very strong because the knockdown leaves the opponent like facing you backward, so you get some really strong Oki tools from this. So like, let's say you land the hell sweep, right? If you try to get up with back or up, you can catch them with back to 1. We spoke about back to 1 earlier, a very strong Oki tool. So it's very strong after hell sweep. If they stay on the ground, you can go for like a down 2 again. Boom, hit them grounded, get up the floor, get off the floor. Very strong hell sweep because of the Oki option. So use forward 3 as a mix up with the hell sweep. So I say it's like down back 4 because you also have to condition your opponent not to move. You don't want to just dash up a hell sweep randomly with Jin as well. You have to look out for what the opponent has in their toolkit. We spoke about down forward tools, right? Random or rank down forward 2, and you get launched because you try to do a random hell sweep, right? With no conditioning, no frame data or stuff like that. So condition your opponent or put them in bad situations or when they're heavily negative, then implement the mix up between the hell sweep and the forward 3. So it's a coup de grace of Jin in terms of risk. You want to risk it, go for the hell sweep. You want to stay a bit safer, you have down 4, you have down back 4, even freaking down 2. And you don't really rely too much on the hell sweep, honestly, with Jin, but if you want to implement it, you can implement it, and it's very strong on distractible stages that have floor breaks, right? So yeah, very strong in that sense. Okay, so back to Cherry Berry Mango's Jin here using down 4. So he does 2-1-4 into dash up down 4, then sidestep electric. Remember guys, make your decision after down 4 on what your opponent does afterwards. So we then see him do a Hellsweep after a combo ender at the wall. He then cancels into Hellsweep, then down 2. So remember, do the Hellsweep when your opponent is in bad situations as well. So after he's getting off the ground, it's a good time to go for the Hellsweep. Then he does down 2, which like I said is an okay mix-up between down 2 if they stay on the ground and back to 1 if they get off the ground. And lastly here with Book's Jin, we have another example of down 2, like just do it bro, round start down 2. Who cares, right? Just do it. So finally, let's talk about Jin's Heat. So Jin In Heat gains access to the Omen stance, which is a power crush that grants him a wave dash mix-up on block and on hit. So it automatically goes into wave dash, and he does have some moves off of this wave dash. It's +4 on block and +23 I believe on hit. So on hit it's like a guaranteed mix-up they have to guess for their life. So like I said, he does have some moves off of this wave dash. He has a mid electric, so wave dash 2. After the Omen stance, he has the 1 screw, the Omen Thunder, which is unsafe. However, you're going to only be using this for a screw if you land the Omen on hit. On hit at the wall, this thing was splats, so Omen 1 will automatically screw at the wall. Then he has Omen 4, which is a Hellsweep that launches as well. Omen 3 mid launcher, then Omen 3+4, which is a delayed low. The only thing bad about this stance is the range. You will not be using this at mid screen. The range is horrible, and the whiff recovery is like it's stupid. It's horrible as well. You won't really be relying this mid screen. Where this thing shines is at the wall. At the wall, his pressure is very strong. So generally, it's a mix-up between the mid electric and the Hellsweep, but this is what people always expect, and most of the times they actually do guess right with the Hellsweep. I don't know if it actually comes out slower because of the wave dash, but most people actually block this. So I like to think of this stance as a conditioning 2 with the mid electric, then use the delayed mix-up between the delayed mid, so Omen 3, and the delayed low, Omen 3+4. You can throw out the Hellsweep once in a while, but like I said, most people usually expect this. So one thing I see a lot of Jin players do is burn their hit immediately they go into hit because they are close to the wall. Jin's hit smash is strong, the one that wall stands. It's strong in that sense, but like don't just burn your entire hit gauge, guys. At least throw out 1 Omen mix before you burn your hit bar, because you're wasting some mix-up potential, you're wasting some chip damage potential, and war splat potential as well if like they guess wrong and stuff. So don't just burn it immediately. Try to go for like a Hellsweep, for like 1 Omen mix, then burn your hit gauge afterwards. So Omen into electric is like the basic conditioning 2. This one is guaranteed mix. They have to block it. If they press buttons, they get launched, so not many people will press buttons after this. If they're blocking this all the time, now go for like the delayed version, right? Delayed into Omen 3, the mid launcher. If they're not blocking low, go for the low, right? If they're not reacting to the Hellsweep, throw out the Hellsweep once in a while. So don't just stick to the fact that it's a mix-up between the electric and the Hellsweep. Mix that up with like the mid version, the Omen 3, and the Omen 3+4 as well. So that's basically how you use Jin's hit. Very strong at the wall, but like don't just rely too much on it because his hit smash is strong. So you want to reserve some hit gauge for that final hit smash before your hit gauge ends. So there you have it, guys, a complete look at Jin and all of his key moves and how you utilize all these moves overall. So if you enjoyed my video, please do consider subscribing, liking, and checking out my other content. I'm doing more Jin content going forward, so you do not want to miss it. So thank you, my boys, GG, and take care.